requirements. You guys have an opportunity now to write some things at home. What do you make of this upcoming week where you're going to have this chance now to play these home games and maybe figure a few things out before you have to go back on the road again?
Talking with the coaches yesterday, we watched a film on Wisconsin, and overall, you just said the effort, we just need to pick it up, especially on the road. It's hard to win big games on the road because you're not home. The home court advantage, it's a real thing. The fans backing you. You go on the run, the fans screaming. So we gotta. I think it's just we just gotta find ourselves really on the road and just be able to play harder because that's what it takes to win on the road. And these next, I think it's 3 home games. It's good to be home. Like I love playing at home in front of the fans, and as I said before, it's definitely boosts your, when you make a dunk or something, you're screaming, so it definitely gives you momentum.
And when you guys are going through a game like you were the other night, when shots aren't falling from the perimeter, I know you beat them in the paint and you outscored them in the paint, and your 2-point field goal shooting percentage was really solid. What's the key? What does this team need to do when shots aren't falling to be able to overcome that?
Well, first, we just need to not get in our heads, really, when shots aren't falling. It can be tough, if you're shots aren't falling, but we just gotta just stay the course, and they're eventually gonna start to fall. So I think that's what it really is. Just don't get disappointed when shots aren't falling. Just for me, like my jump hook wasn't falling in the first couple of minutes of the Wisconsin game, and I was like, "What is happening?" So just just don't get down on yourself. Just keep shooting because eventually you got to fall.
All right, next up is Griffin Strong. We'll go Colin on deck. Griffin.
Yeah, Zed, defensively for you guys, I think since coming back from the COVID break, you guys are giving up like 10 more points per game, something like that, than you were before the break. I just wonder, why you think that is. Is that just something where, now you guys are playing obviously Big Ten teams, day in and day out, or what do you feel like you guys need to do better to limit, the scoring of your opponents?
Well, it's coming off the little break we had. It was tough, being off that long for with the COVID issues we were dealing with, especially in the middle of the season. Just you're playing well, you're in shape, and just stop for like 15 days. It could be tough. So we definitely have some stuff to work on defense, as you said. Like we give it more 10 points up more on against opponents. So it's definitely something where every day we're working on getting our defense better and trying to stop teams from scoring because defense wins games.
And then, yeah, like you individually, I mean, you seem to really be, really hitting your stride and getting in a really good rhythm right before the end of that break. And you had a really good game the other night too. But, has it taken you time personally to get back into a groove here? And maybe do you feel like now you can start hitting your stride moving forward?
It was a little tough. As I said, being off for 15 days. I was one of the people that had COVID, so it's even more tougher trying to get back, just being off for that long. But you just got to push through, put in extra work, just to get your body right. So that's like really not an excuse, but it's just something we dealt with as a team, and just got to keep pushing forward.
Did you experience any symptoms at all, or were just pretty much?
It was a little symptoms, a little. Like it wasn't nothing too crazy, but it was. I had to deal with it. Like it came up, so it's I'm okay now though. So that's all that matters. Just getting back.
Thanks, Ed.
No problem.
All right, next up, Colin Gay. Colin.
Hey, Zed, you were mentioning the kind of offensive approach in terms of, when shots aren't falling and kind of, is that something that you guys can change, or is that something that, can change in the middle of a huddle? Or is it, you say keep shooting until, you guys find a rhythm, but when it gets to a point, is it kind of like, okay, we need to try something new? Did that ever come up like again, against Wisconsin or kind of what was that approach there?
That never came up because when shots aren't falling, you just don't stop shooting. Like you just can't get in your head like, all right, I'm gonna be done shooting. just gotta keep shooting because we need. But if you don't shoot them, then they're not gonna go in. So
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's just something like in the huddle. Like when you see us huddle, we talk about okay, you miss shots. Everyone miss shots. Just keep shooting. So that's really what we're talking about in the huddle. Or yeah,
I mean, like, is it? I don't know. Like, I mean, it seemed like last time you guys played Penn State, it was a little bit. I mean, you guys shot better from three. It wasn't as much of a paint kind of performance than you guys had, in other games like the first Wisconsin game. It's, I mean, how much of the film do you watch, and how much of Penn State were you like, okay, this is it kind of like Wisconsin where you're like, yeah, this is going to be a different kind of game than we saw that first time, or how do you approach this one as opposed to last time you played them?
Well, we definitely watch a lot of film. Coaching staff definitely really gets us prepared for our next opponent. But Penn State is a totally different team than when we play them in the beginning of the year. They play faster, they play harder. They have some different pieces. So like they're a really good team, and they're coming in on Sunday to beat us. So we just gotta be ready.
Thanks, Ed.
Wow.
All right, next up is Whitney Hardy. Whitney.
Hey, Zed. Thanks for joining us this morning. I guess it's afternoon. You mentioned how Penn State is a different team. They like to get up and down. Is there something maybe a little more specific about that's evolved with their team? Maybe a player has kind of come into his own that you guys didn't really experience last time that you have to be more prepared for?
Well, I know they have a couple of people. I think like a couple forwards come back from an injury, and they're making an impact on the game. So we really got to be ready for them. So it was definitely a different team than we played them in the beginning of the year. Definitely a different team, and we've seen on film too how their play style is definitely a lot different.
There we go. And when you guys are having those outside shooting struggles, how much does it mean that you inside players need to really step up, get position on the block, get yourself in a spot where you can get the ball and make easy buckets to kind of get that flow going?
It can be tough sometimes. What was the last question? I'm sorry, someone knocked on the door, and it totally lost my train of thought. So
totally fine. My question really was, when the outside shots aren't falling, then how important is it for you post players to really get yourself in position on the block for those close range shots, those bunnies, to kind of get that team confidence flowing again?
Well, offensive rebounding is big for us too, just to get our second possessions, and when we kick it out, when they double, you just gotta be ready just to shoot. And I tell them shoot the ball, because when the shots are falling, it's easier for like big guys, because the team can't really our opponents really can't double. So and I hate when they don't shoot. I tell them, please shoot the ball. If I pass it to you, please shoot it, because it helps us really on both ends, the big and the guards. So yeah, I definitely tell them to shoot the ball.
Now you want those assist numbers, don't lie.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
don't
yeah.
lie.
I'm trying to up the assists.
Thanks, Zed.
No problem.
All right, and we'll finish up with a follow-up from Adam Jardy. Adam.
Zed, kind of building off that last question, we've been asking you a lot about the team's perimeter shooting, but you guys as a team collectively have started to shoot really well inside the arc, and you've done a pretty good job scoring in the paint these last couple of games. And I just wonder how much that is maybe becoming part of this team's identity. I feel like we always talk about you have a lot of shooters, but in these last two games especially, we've seen you guys are showing yourselves to be pretty effective down low. How much of this team's identity do you think going forward is rooted in scoring in the paint?
Well, we take that's one of our points of emphasis, is to play through the paint. Once you get into like the heart of like defense, when you play in the paint, it's easy, because the whole teams like to suck in to the middle when you have the ball in the paint. So when you pass to the corner, you have wide open shots. So definitely a big emphasis to play through the paint, because it makes it easier on everyone else. Because now the other teams are scramble and closeouts, and it makes it easier. But now you have driving lanes with teams. So yeah, it definitely is one of our emphasis to definitely play through the paint.
Do you think that that's like as this season goes forward, is that something you think this team could get known for? I mean, do you think people are going to look at this Ohio State team at the end of the year and say this is a team that, yes, they had shooters, but they had, they could score in the block?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more. The coaching staff is really putting emphasis on playing through the paint, just driving post play, just to get it in the heart of the defense, to make shots easier and for the shooters, because teams know that we like to shoot threes and they play the three, so we don't get them off on Justin Arns. They don't leave his body at all because they want to shoot. So once we get the ball in the paint, we can make the right passes and have people open.
Thanks, Ed.
No problem.
All right. Good stuff, Zed. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
All right, we'll get Coach Peden here shortly.
Starting to think maybe Ryan actually doesn't like us.
He texted me like 2 minutes ago, said, I'm hopping on right now.
Hi, everybody.
Coach Peden on and ready to roll, huh?
Yep. How you doing? Sorry to keep you waiting.
Oh, good. All right. Let's start out with Adam Jardy and Whitney Harding on deck. Adam, go ahead.
Ryan, it's good to see you again.
You too, Adam.
So everyone's obviously had a different path toward kind of getting back to the form that you guys were in before the pause. And with Justin, I just wonder what you're seeing from him right now, especially offensively, where it seems like it's getting harder for him to find his shot. And I know some of that's Big Ten play, but what are you seeing from him right now that he's still kind of working through?
I see a lot of Justin's shots being right on, a lot of them being front rim though. And I think some of that is, probably attributed to his legs and coming back off of the layoff. I think some of that's probably timing. And, I think the reality is in Big Ten play, his window to get shots off, we know this because we've experienced it here the last few years, is going to be really a short window. So he's got to stay the course. He can't get too frustrated or can't get too high or too low. Great shooters have short memories, and I know he's got a proven track record. So we've got a lot of confidence in Justin and how he'll respond to a couple games where maybe he's not shooting as well as he's accustomed to.
Well, one of the things I know you've, as a staff, have consistently talked about with him is that when he's at his best, he's really hunting his shot. Have you sensed that as he's gone through this, any hesitancy on his part? Is he hunting his shot as aggressively as he needs to or can?
I think he is. I think he's hunting his shot. We've talked about shot discipline a lot with him here recently, because I think if you look back at his threes, we charted last week, his percentages of shooting when he's on the line or thereabouts versus NBA level 3-point shots, and the discrepancy is it's wide. And not saying Justin can't shoot with range or that we would want him to take a couple of those, but I think when you're depending on 25 footers as opposed to 22 footers, even the greatest shooters in the world, there's gonna be a drop off. So I think with him, big part of it is mentality. I spoke to him after the game the other night, and I said, think back on your career, and when you've been your best, or you shot great, or you played well, how many of those times were you in a frustrated state? Were you upset? Were you hanging your head? And I think, hopefully giving him some perspective. The advantage for our staff is we have a lot of experience with him, and he's played a lot of games here as a Buckeye, so we got high level of confidence in him, and we want him to keep taking great shots and just having a belief that those will go in.
All right, next up, Whitney Harding with Griffin Strom on deck. Whitney.
Ryan, one thing we talked about with Zed was a lot about the outside shooting struggles, but also how important it is for this team to have a post presence, whether that is shots or rebounding. I mean, how much does that post presence help when the outside shooters are struggling a little bit?
No doubt, Whitney. I think it's no different in football. If you're only a good passing team, that's going to have limits to it. There's going to be a ceiling to how dominant you can become offensively. And same way goes in basketball. If you're just a good shooting team, but you can't score the ball inside or don't pose enough of a post presence at the rim, you become easier to guard. So we want to have a healthy balance, always offensively while playing to our strengths. And Zed is one of our obvious strengths of our team. I think we're blessed in the fact that we do have, I think we have a roster that fits together very well, because we have guys that are very different from one another. I don't think you look up and down our roster and say, man, there's two guys that are really very similar. Maybe you could say that about Joey and Zed, but I think that's it. We've got a lot of guys that have some, real versatility. And I think versatility is a word you've been around our program. You've heard us say that a lot, and being able to score it inside and out and have guys that can do that, it makes you really tough to guard.
Your audience talk to the Texan and put it in football terms.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, Penn State, second time around. How has this team changed since December? Is there something different you guys are preparing for this time around?
I think Penn State is their identity was forming as we played them. They're getting to know their coach and what he wanted out of them. I think we could see hallmarks of who they were becoming. I think now you can pour some concrete into that. They have a real identifiable DNA on film. It shows up in their stats. They've had closer games. There's a way that they want to play, and we're going to have to counter that with being very strong-willed about how we want to play. And if it's their type of game, that's going to favor them. And if it's our type of game, I think that will favor us. So we got a lot of respect for them. I think they're very well coached. I think their team takes on a personality that their head coach is presenting. And, I think we're going to have to be ready for a real dogfight for sure.
Sorry, guys, I got one more follow-up to that. What is the DNA now? What is that kind of, identity that they have created?
They're going to fight you for everything. I think they have a real chip on their shoulder. They play like they're trying to prove something, like they're a bunch of underdogs. I think that's the mentality that their coach is forming. He has a background from being a Butler Bulldog for years under Brad Stevens, and you can spot that from a mile away. But we've got a lot of respect for him, and I think that mentality, that DNA that maybe was forming a month ago is now more obvious from a coaching standpoint. So we respect them a lot, and we know it's going to be another Big Ten throwdown.
Thanks.
Sure thing, Whitney.
Griffin Strom up and Colin Gay on deck. Griffin.
Coach, you talk about that change in kind of DNA and mindset and whatnot, but I wonder how much of the differences in Zed, referred to Penn State as a totally different team since the first time you guys played him. I know one guy that they didn't have when you guys played him the first time was Greg Lee, the 6'9" forward. I wonder how you think his kind of inclusion in the lineup now as a starter as well for them, giving them another, big body along forward. Kind of changes things for their lineup and how they play.
Yeah, I think he adds to their depth too. Penn State maybe wasn't the deepest team, so adding a guy that they can depend on, to bring certain things to the table. He's an older guy. I think they know what they're getting out of him. To me, what I see on film with him is he has injected some energy into them. He's a live athlete, and he's a competitor. He plays hard. He's versatile. They like to switch a lot of ball screens defensively. So, adding a mature guy to what they already had, I think was probably, Micah could tell you that, but probably very needed, and allowed them to bring another player off the bench, giving them a little bit more depth. So he's sort of solidified them, and, they've had some close games here. I just think the way that they have played in these games is sort of what sticks out to me. The grit, the toughness, the loose balls. It's been a part of the Penn State program for a long time, but it's sort of presented itself, I think, with this team more in the last 2 to 3 weeks, from what I can see. And so we're looking forward to the challenge, and they're coming on for sure.
One other guy with them I wanted to just ask about specifically is Pickett. He's the guy that, had a really big game against you guys last time, and that seemed to kind of, allow him to explode here in this recent stretch, and he's kind of been the first option scoring wise for them in this latest run here. I wonder how much more a part of the game plan and the scouting report he is for you guys the second time around.
Yeah, he was a part of it the first time, but I think in watching them play, from being in some of our staff meetings, I'm not watching the offensive side of the ball as much, but and watching them play when I'm at home or seeing them play on television, the ball's in his hands a lot more than it was in game one. That's obvious to me. I think he's a really good decision maker. He's an experienced guy, scored a lot of points in his college career before he got to Penn State. I like his basketball character. He's about the right things. And I've seen him emerge, and I think the numbers would prove that. We're going to have to be ready for him. It's not one guy. The way they play, they bounce him off a lot of ball screens. They screen, they rescreen him. They're going to try to lay bodies on you and free him up to get him angles on the perimeter. And he's good at that. So it's going to be a team effort, and we're going to have to be definitely connected defensively.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure thing.
Next up, Colin Gay. We'll go back to Adam Jardy. Colin.
Hey, Ryan, I don't want to look back super far, but I just wanted to get your perspective here. I'm obviously, after the Northwestern game, Chris was talking about how it was one of the worst defensive rebounding performances in 4 years. And I'm curious about, I mean, what was it like watching that performance from home? Like, what were you seeing? Was it a different perspective? I don't know. Like, what was the perspective or kind of the starting point when you eventually did return to the team? What did you see there?
You know, first of all, it was miserable. It was, I did not know how. I've never watched a game on a coaching staff I've been a part of watching my team. And so I didn't know how I'd react, but I was like a total fanboy watching the game. And when EJ leads the game off hitting 5 threes, I'm banging on doors. I was in our guest room. I was locked up in my guest room, but I was talking trash and going crazy. And so it was definitely a different perspective. But you know, to your point, the defensive rebounding, I don't know that I saw anything different than I would if I were a part of it. What I think is we got to show continued improvement in the areas that have bitten us repeatedly. And that's what good teams do. And that's a challenge to our team, that we have to zero in on those things and be intentional about improving in those areas. And if we do that, I think good things will happen, because we've had good success, but we've had a couple things on both sides of the basketball that have continually bit us. And, you know, we got to address that.
Have you, I don't know, like, as you've gotten back to, you know, courtside, as you've gotten back into practices, have you seen a different approach from those guys in the paint, knowing that those struggles are there? I mean, obviously they're still working their way back from that 3-week pause, but I mean, yeah. Is it kind of a different kind of heightened approach in the paint, or what have you seen? How have you kind of led those guys to kind of take initiative in that area? Yeah,
there has to be an intentionality about it. And I think when you're dealing with 17, 18, 19-year-old young men, or more in our case, we've got some 24 and 20, seems like 26-year-olds on our team, but you have to, and from a coaching standpoint, not only talk about it and make them aware, but we got to practice it. And it's not something magical. This is not the NBA where you have one practice every 10 or 12 days. You know, we're practicing. We've got to be intentional about the areas that we want to improve in. We want to talk about it. We want to show them those issues on film, and then ultimately, you know, change our behaviors. And I think, you know, I read this, and I've read a book talking about the laws of behavior change. And, you know, you have to make it very obvious to guys and make it rewarding. You know, what's the reward for us? Well, the reward for us is we're going to start to win possessions. And the Big Ten, possessions are like gold. So if we take care of this, and we can shore up these 3 or 4 areas, we're going to win 10 to 12 more possessions a game. That's the difference between winning and losing in a big way. I don't need to tell you guys that. A lot of times games come down to 1 or 2 possessions. So I do think our areas are fairly, we've been consistent, fortunately or unfortunately, with some of our hindrances, but I'm confident, you know, we're getting a rhythm here. I think we're getting healthy. I'm confident that we'll see improvement here as we head into the thick of the Big Ten schedule.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
All right, and we'll finish up with Adam Jardy. Adam.
And excuse me. Well, one more thing just about the team shooting, and you've touched on this a little bit with talking about Zed, but as you have planned this offense and worked in this offense, how much do you want to lean on being a 3-point shooting team? I mean, I know you talked about it being a balance, but how much of this team's identity do you think is as a perimeter team, and how much do you think is as a post team?
It's a good question. I think you have an idea coming into the year of what your strengths and weaknesses will be. And from an offensive standpoint, I think we had some returning guys that we felt like we knew what we were going to get. But, you know, our ability to shoot the ball it's been really good. I mean, we've been a top 10 3-point shooting team, I think, or thereabouts in the country. And I don't know that I would have forecasted that. But one thing I think offensively we'll always do is we will continue to ride the wave of what's working. And we have an identity that we don't ever want to stray from. So I don't want to become a finesse, all perimeter oriented 3-point run and gun team. I don't think that's sustainable to win at a high level in our conference at this level. But we're going to continue to do the things that have been working too. And so I think there's a balance of playing to your strengths and continuing to find ways to replicate what's working, Adam. But we always want to be a team that plays inside out, side to side. I definitely would like to see us get to the free throw line more, because I think when we're at our best, ultimately, I think that'll be a big part of our game, in addition to the 3-point shooting and the versatility that we present. And I also think that we're evolving. You know, what we've learned about Malachi Branham here in the last 10 days to 2 weeks, you know, are some things maybe we didn't know before that. And we knew he was super talented, but he's emerging. Let's not forget a couple guys that we hope to add, Justice Sewing and Seth Towns, and what they can bring to the offense. So I think this will be a fluid and evolving offense as we go on. You know, I hope it does. I hope it continues to evolve as we keep our identity. But I think throughout it's going to be changing a little bit more this year than maybe years past.
And losing Michi, I mean, I know that's, you know, you get guys back, you come back, Holtmann comes back, and then Michi's out. It just seems like it's a tough year for those kinds of things. What impact has that had on the rotation, and who needs to, I know it's kind of a collective thing, but who needs to fill in there and try to replace some of the things that he can do for you?
Yeah, I think it's just a mentality of, you know, next man up, and having a group of guys that will step up when called upon. Urban Meyer, you know, being your best. What did he say? Can you be your best when we need you most? And your very best when we need you most. And, you know, I think we have a unique roster in the fact that we have 13 or 14 guys that can all help us win. I don't think I've ever been a part of a team or a program where you could say that. And I do believe it. So, you know, losing Michi, obviously we lose, you know, his dynamic playmaking ability, his quickness, I think is something that affects the game on both ends of the floor. I think what you're seeing with Michi is a guy that's getting better and better by the game, becoming more and more consistent. And you know, hopefully Michi will be back here soon. But you know, we love the growth that he's been about, and what he's brought to the table for us, for sure.
Thanks, Ryan.
Welcome.